Good evening, y'all, and welcome to Fired Up. I am your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are coming to you directly from the gun store here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are on radio here at KSHP 1400 AM every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. in drive time. So you can get yourself informed on gun laws and gun issues and self-defense, which is what we generally cover. There's a version of this show also being simultaneously recorded on YouTube. It will be up on the web on YouTube. You can find that at Fired Up. Go to YouTube and click for Fired Up with Bob Irwin. We put up a new show every week. For some reason, I don't understand. They're showing up on Thursdays if you're, or Saturdays if you're a subscriber. But why they delay it 2 days, we don't know. They haven't edited anything out, which I'm surprised at. Anyway, if you missed anything, the YouTube version stays up forever. You can look back about 4 years and see how we're all getting older and what we were wrong about 3 years ago. Tonight is one of my best ever guest attorneys with me, Bill Gamage. Bill, if you'd give a little background of your firearms and legal stuff, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Bob. As you know, I was law enforcement for a little over a decade. We worked together on academies teaching firearms. I ran a firearms program for the agency that I worked with, and then I became an attorney, and I've handled some self-defense cases in conjunction with other attorneys and by myself. And, so, you know, I'm out there and able to assist people that have questions or concerns about the use of firearms or the use of force.
He is a particularly great attorney because he has all three of the trifecta in my mind. A firearms trainer in his history, a law enforcement officer in his history, and an attorney in Nevada. So he doesn't keep having to hire experts. And we've actually run into each other in all three of those venues, taught academies together, and did some cases with Bill. And he's the man at the moment. If you have a gun crime problem, this is your guy. We've got his contact information on the end of our website. If you go to the end of the website, it lists our attorneys. You can click on attorneys or guests, and it lists his contact information. Bill Gamage. If you have a question or comment about anything on the show, you can send me a text or an email to bob@firedupmail.com. It's on the little sign right here. And we answer all inquiries. If it's some major issue, we'll actually address it on the air. But all the texts that come in with your questions or comments, we do react to. Some of the comments I don't want to react to. We'll react to all of them. If you have a question or comment for one of our guests, just send them that Bob@ address, because I will forward it to Bill or whoever you are looking at. There are, as we all know, there's several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States. We talk about a couple of those on the opening of every show. I pick out cases, there's lots of them. I pick out cases that I think have some educational purposes for viewers who would keep a gun in their house or carry concealed. Incidents that have happened to people and how they reacted, and we look at what they did right, what they did wrong. Not to criticize people that are defending their lives under the moment of panic that you have when someone is stabbing you, but to look at in advance, maybe we can make it a little better if we've done this or done that, or address the police issues a little differently and so forth. Like I say, some are good, some are bad. They're all food for thought if you have a gun that you carry or you have a gun in your house. This is from the East Portland News and a site called kgw.com. This was on the 28th of last month. A mother returning home to her Portland home with her two children at 1:45 in the morning found a stranger in one of her children's bedrooms. The incident happened inside her home. It's in the 4100 block of Southeast 118th Place, if you know where that is. According to detectives, the intruder broke into the home through a back window. He was found in the bedroom of her 10-year-old daughter. The daughter, along with her 5-year-old brother, were in a different bedroom at the time. The 33-year-old mother heard a noise. She went got her handgun and was looking through the house, and she finds this guy. She shot this 59-year-old intruder. There's apparently no connection the authorities can find between the family and the home intruder. The Oregon State Medical Examiner reported he had determined he died of a single gunshot wound. A recent reporting indicates the man had no significant criminal history. There was a recent report indicating he may have been dealing with some mental health issues. Investigators truthfully can find no reason why he broke into the home. He wasn't trying to steal something, as near as I can tell. The neighbor who spoke with the media said the mom did the right thing. I would be scared, she said, and if I had to do what she had to do, I'd have done the same thing. The mom's cooperating with investigators. The ongoing investigation apparently will determine whether or not she acted in self-defense or will face charges. The case was reviewed by the county district attorney's office. This is just no connection. She comes home. The kids went to the same bedroom for some reason, and there's a guy, and no apparent reason. They can't find that he was, stealing underwear, or he was just there. The county attorney's office looking at it, of course, is going to happen in all cases. And I'm sure there will be some who will say, why'd you shoot the guy? He's not doing anything, but standing in your daughter's bedroom at 1:45 in the morning.
After he forcibly entered the residence.
After he broke into the residence. I mean,
there's generally a presumption, Bob, that the person who breaks into your house is, when it's occupied, is there to do probably something violent or harmful to the residents. So I think she will be okay for purposes of criminal liability, simply because the facts are what they are. Unfortunately, the mental health population of our country sometimes gets into these sort of sticky situations, and you can't be too careful if you're the homeowner. So I don't know what the person did when she came upon them in the bedroom. I don't know what happened. More facts are certainly necessary, but
we don't. That's
yeah. But certainly she can presume that he was there to do harm to him, her, or her children, and so I think criminal liability should be fine. Civil liability, that there potentially is a separate question, and
I can see that if nothing happened, he was just standing there and she went and fired her gun. That family members, if assuming there are some, are going to come back and say, we want $1 million because you should have told old Fred, get out of my house, or freeze, I'm calling the police. But that's not really required, is it?
No, it's not. It would turn on the facts.
It would be nice if she did that, but if she just went bang,
because she was startled.
If you're on the jury, picture this now, 1:45 in the morning. And here's this middle-aged guy. I don't think anybody on that jury is going to blame her for going bang.
I don't.
We would advise, if that's possible, unless you're too close or whatever, that you go, get out of my house, or
issue a warning.
Some kind of warning, give them a chance to
if at all possible.
But if you do, that's a nice thing to do to save the court case, but it isn't required.
No.
In some cases, it is in some states, so you got to watch out for that. But there's a presumption, as Bill said, that they're in the house. If they broke in the middle of the night, or they broke in the middle of the day, they're there to harm you. And when they convince you they're not there to harm you, then that's that. We cover this in classes. If you don't have a gun in your home, or want to have a gun in your home, or want to carry a gun, we offer free concealed carry permit classes every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Saturday here at the gun store. You can go to our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com, and sign up online. We're running busy, lots of people now that are taking those classes. If you have a gun in your house and you don't want to carry a permit on the street, the class is actually free. There's a charge if you get your permit from the police. They charge you $100. But just for knowledge of having a gun in your house, you want to get some training.
Absolutely.
You get all kinds of questions at the counter all day about, well, a guy comes to my house, can I just shoot him? And the answer, of course, is a 4-hour answer. What guy? How big, how tall, how far away, with weapon, without? It's complicated, but we can simplify it for you. It's a free class. Come learn, so you'll make a mistake. This is kind of a goofy, sad story. The Oregonian newspaper and Fox News reported this week in Portland, Oregon. The previous Portland case was Portland, Maine. Not that different. Same name. Officials say the shooting of a former Detroit Lions cornerback at a multi-million-dollar home in Portland was justified. This is an older case, and they've just determined, the grand jury ruled that the former NFL player that the shooting of this NFL player was justified under Oregon criminal law. And there's part of the statute in here which spells this out. On June 22nd, a Portland resident shot a former football player in the abdomen after he tried to break into the home in the 4900 block of Southwest Humphrey Boulevard, if you know where that is. Officers found the suspect naked and wounded in a water fountain. It's on the property. There's a sidelight from the police report that wasn't in the news story that according to the complaints, the same guy had broken into multiple houses in Southwest Portland on the same day that he was shot. This was a house somewhere down his path. He broke into houses and then went to the next house. He'll be arraigned on charges of first-degree burglary, first-degree criminal trespass, 2 counts of second-degree criminal trespass. He posted bail. He's out. What hasn't been determined was what caused him to break into the house. Kind of like the 59-year-old guy in the previous story. Some details here that are appropriate. They confirmed the suspect was a former NFL player. He was drafted by the Detroit Lions out of Stanford in 2005, played 32 games at cornerback for the Detroit Lions. Apparently, he was running amok, and there's no other word I could find to use to explain that. They don't know why he was there. They know when the homeowner saw him naked in the fountain, he went out with a gun. And the guy apparently lunged at the homeowner. That evidence came up in the grand jury, apparently. The armed homeowner was able to prevent an injury to himself or worse by having the firearm. And, you know, obviously we'd always say at the end of the day, if he was not armed, where would he be? Mm-hmm. Again, this is a sad case because something is obviously wrong in this guy's life or brain or drugs or something. And again, the reason why that is doesn't matter much to the homeowner.
No, not from his perspective.
There's a guy who's obviously an athlete. Trust me, somebody who has been playing in the NFL for 5 seasons is
He's probably a big guy.
A physical specimen that's capable of hurting you. If the homeowner hadn't had a gun, he could have been seriously hurt or somebody else in his home hurt. Again, we have the question of when I do these cases in court, it's always the 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, it's what the
confrontation, not all this history we're giving you. This is maybe the why and some examples of how to avoid this. A way to avoid this?
Well, it depends on, there's some confusion here with the facts. I mean, obviously, if the guy was out in the fountain when he got shot, it's different from if he was trying to break into the home, which is what it said.
Yeah.
So if he's trying to break in the home, he got shot and then made it out to the fountain and fell in the fountain. That's one thing. That's probably, I think, what kind of happened here. Then that's fine if the person was starting to gain entry into the house. But you could stay in the house, lock the doors, call the police, keep your firearm handy, and issue warnings and direct the police in and let them do their job.
Hope the police show up and go get the naked guy.
They'll be there very, very quickly when you explain the situation.
One would assume. I mean, this is in Portland. It's it's a major city, so they're going to have police response that's there. We're not in a rural area. You're waiting.
It's going to be triaged quite high up the scale there.
So, and because of the celebrity of the guy, it's going to be an interesting case. Now he's posted bail. The trial was actually supposed to start today, but it didn't, and they never start when they're supposed to start.
No.
But he has his defenders that you shouldn't be breaking into people's houses, but and we'll follow this because of the name recognition. I'm sure there will be. I left his name out because his name here doesn't matter. I hate to give people publicity when they shouldn't have it and name them when they may be innocent. We don't know what happened here. But this is part of the problem when you read newspaper stories. The facts are in conflict.
Oh, yeah.
And you look at it and go, what really happened? We're going to talk about that with the Dallas case a little bit in a while. We offer a ladies' self-defense class twice a month just for women. It's like the CCW class, sort of, but it's directed at women who are different. I can say that on my own show. Women are different. They're shorter, less upper body strength. Generally, they enter combat different. And
I always say shorter trigger reach.
Yes,
that's what I've experienced.
Their fingers aren't long enough to get the trigger. We've experienced that teaching academies, and we don't treat females differently. Obviously, teaching them how to shoot, but the stances are a little bit different. And one of the problems we found is with the larger guns, especially police trainees, they want their women to carry this kind of gun, and the grip is so big that their finger won't bite on the trigger, and they have to hold it with two hands this way. That happened several times. And you go to the department and go, she needs a single stack gun or and they go, that's our gun. We generally got that corrected when we were doing that. But you give her a tool that she can't use because her fingers are too small. Not a good reason to kick somebody out of police training. Anyway, Maggie teaches a wonderful class. You can find it again on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. This is CBS News 10 in Tampa Bay. That's in Florida. Polk County Sheriff's Office Emergency Communications received a 911 call reference to a shooting at 3:40 in the afternoon in an unincorporated area they call Winter Haven. When deputies arrived, they found the resident's wife, who is 72, outside suffering from 2 gunshot wounds. She told deputies an armed man was still in her home with her 78-year-old husband. The deputies entered the home and found the male resident and the 25-year-old suspect in the back bedroom, both suffering from gunshot wounds. The homeowner died at the scene. The intruder died later at the hospital. The wife was hit in the left knee by bullet fragments and grazed by a bullet on her right foot. Investigators discovered, in looking at all the stuff they had, the 25-year-old entered the home armed with a large knife. As he threatened the elderly man with the knife, the victim was able to retrieve a gun from a safe and shoot at the intruder. Unfortunately, here the wife got caught in the crossfire. She was there helping keep her husband safe. She got hit by a couple rounds. She was able to run to a neighbor's house and get help. This particular intruder had only a criminal history of 1 prior arrest in Polk County. The location, that's for driving without a license because it was revoked, and harassing a working police dog. This is a really sad story, and there's some other details I gleaned from other things. The husband died defending himself and his wife of 53 years they were married. He was able to save his wife from this guy with a knife. The home was apparently chosen at random. There's another case where they found no connection between the criminal and the residents. He just broke into a house. What happened here, the detectives have determined, is the guy came in and the the husband kept his gun in his safe. That's okay. We've talked over and over on the show. If you need a gun, you generally need it now. We recommend that people in houses where you're worried about break-ins or you're not worried, if you don't have a lot of children around in the house and this and that, you keep the gun where you can get a hold of it. It can be concealed in a fake book or on a shelf a little you can't see or whatever. And if you leave the house, obviously you're going to lock it up. In this case, the guy kept the gun in the safe. So the wife apparently came back. The three of them were in the room. When the safe was opened, the guy, the bad guy, is of course looking in the safe at whatever loot there was. The good guy grabs the gun out of the safe and they start fighting over the gun, and the gun is being fired. That's when the wife got struck by a couple cartridges, a couple rounds apparently. Both guys are hit with the gunfire and both died. I can't second guess this 78-year-old guy. He did the best he could to save his wife.
Sure.
To prevent this, what I would suggest is if you keep a gun in a safe and the bad guy comes in and says, open the safe, you know that he's going to see your gun.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to grab it, he's going to be right there, and you're, by definition, going to be fighting over the gun. So looking at this victim with 20/20 hindsight, I normally advise people to keep the gun near the safe, if that's where you think you're going to be, but not in the safe. If it's in the safe and the guy's coming through the door, you got to open the safe. If the guy is forcing you a knife point or a gun point to open the safe, he's going to see the gun at the same time you do. Mm-hmm. If the gun is off the safe, it is on a high shelf in a fake book, hidden under a pile of old newspapers, whatever, that's somewhere in the room. When you unlock the safe, he's going to want to open it to make sure you don't grab a gun, just what this guy did. So you'll be able to back away a few feet and get your gun while he's looking in the safe. And then you can make the decision whether to shoot the guy right there or challenge him. But the first thing he's looking, he's going to be startled for a minute looking at all the cash you've got stacked up, as we all do. But it gives you a chance to get the gun quicker if somebody breaks in, that it's not in something. I'm visualizing as a combination dial. Maybe it wasn't, maybe it's push button dial. But same difference, the gun's in the safe.
Yeah. Possible suggestion.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just
may not work for everybody, especially if they have kids around the house and things like that.
The layout of your house and who has access really matters.
You have to take that into consideration.
We talk about this subject all the time with customers. I want to have the gun available instantly, but I want my kid to have to go through 500 different blocks to get to it.
Yes.
And you go, okay, which one of those do you want?
Yeah.
There are some fairly fast gun safes that read your fingerprint or read your combination. Strongly recommend those for night, getting your gun out of a lockbox. Got kids, they're a great solution. Mm-hmm. They bolt to the floor or bolt to whatever, so you can bolt them to the floor next to the bed, reach down and hit your little combination or stick your finger in and get the thing open. And you've got the gun and the bad guy doesn't. The problem here is the guy is with a big knife right on top of you. Yeah. Even opening that safe would become very difficult.
Yes.
So their 20/20 hindsight works great for me. I hope it works for the rest of you too. I am just, this is really horrible that the husband dies. They've been married 53 years. If you're planning a corporate event, we do lots of gun stuff here, machine gun shooting and whatnot, and all kinds of pistols and whatnot. Contact Melissa at thegunstorelasvegas.com, and we will get your group set up. We do weddings and so forth also. You want to get married in a gun range, which people do. My wife didn't find that was going to be that romantic. Well, yeah. But people do. This is a local case. This is kind of nice. This guy took a little bit of flack, and this just happened. This was from KLS TVA News Now. On Monday night, armed citizen helped take down a guy who was trying to flee the scene of a hit and run, an alleged hit and run. The suspect is 31 years old. He's facing felony hit and run charges after allegedly hitting a pedestrian near the corner of Maverick and Smoke Ranch here in Vegas. Dramatic video was taken by a bystander and posted on Facebook, so everybody got to see it. The CCW holder could be seen pulling his gun and making a citizen's arrest of the driver. According to the citizen, after hitting the pedestrian, the suspect kept driving, so he followed in his car. He tried to cut the guy off, and the guy still wanted to go, so he jumped out of his car, drew his firearm, and he says, it was like, you need to get the heck out of the car, he said to the guy. I have the rights to do a citizen's arrest because he's doing a hit and run, and he could have just killed the guy. So I drew my firearm, not only in my self-defense, but in everyone else's self-defense at that intersection. Metro Police arrived. Lots of people called 911, obviously, with this going on. Due to the confusion when they just arrived, the officers, of course, drew down on this citizen. He carefully followed their instructions, put his weapon down, put it on the ground, and explained what happened, and so did other witnesses there. Metro stepped in and said every situation is different when it comes to citizens' arrest, so they weren't addressing the legality there. But in this case, officers had determined that he will not face any charges. Metro said the 24-year-old man who was hit suffered multiple broken bones, but is recovering from his hit and run injuries. A citizen chases down a suspect and holds him for the police. Good.
This one worked out well. It could have been a nightmare for the citizen.
Could have.
Could have. I mean, if he'd gotten into some sort of a car accident, if he's blowing red lights to chase this person, there are certain lines, there are certain things you don't necessarily need to do, in that situation. It also, you don't get the benefit of mistake of fact as a citizen when you go to apprehend somebody when it comes to the level of force that is reasonable. And as we've talked about in the past, the police get a much larger gap in the level of force that they use against whatever force is presented against them.
If this is mixed up, because there were several cars that looked alike,
yes,
and this is the guy from the wrong car,
yes,
he has no defense, where the police have qualified immunity because we require them to chase bad guys. So if they make a mistake, they're immune from most lawsuits.
Yeah.
This guy's not.
Yeah, my recommendation would have been, or if he ran somebody off the road and they died, that could have been a form of reckless driving depending on the circumstances, and he could be chasing a vehicular homicide charge. I would recommend a citizen in this, keep your gun secured and handy, call the police, dial them in, and they will do what they do with their body armor, their equipment, and their training. And
they're free lawyers.
Yeah. That would accomplish the same mission, and do it in such a way that's safer for everybody. But that's again my hindsight 2020.
Well, yeah, it's hindsight. This worked, and I see this guy as a hero for doing what he did, and we're not taking away from that by saying following the guy was okay to see where he goes. Yeah, great, be a great witness. If you can wait for the police, wait for the police.
Absolutely.
The guy took it, and the guy had the other big thing here is the guy had taken concealed weapon training. I didn't look. I don't know if he was one of mine. That really doesn't matter. But I made a note to myself. You have to understand when the cops arrive, they have no idea who the good guy is.
Yes.
They got two guys there. One guy yelling. One guy, in this case, the guy's on the ground, and the citizen's got his foot on him. He's pointing a gun at him. So they don't know who the good guys are. Even if one of them maybe there is no good guy.
Yeah.
This is two bad guys.
Yeah.
They have no idea. So they've got a guy hit in the street some blocks away. They got two guys, one guy with a gun, So he followed their commands as he would be told by any CCW instructor. Put the gun on the ground or have it put away before the police arrive. Show them your palms. and you can explain what happened after you're handcuffed, because they're going to hook up everybody till they know who's who.
We used to tell all of our plainclothes officers, we were a plainclothes agency, you expect to get handcuffed, disarmed, the whole 9 yards until they sort it out.
And I know some instances where your guys had that happen. It happens all the time. And, you know, the guy you're looking up says, I'm on the job, I'm officer so-and-so.
Yeah, sure.
Isn't that nice? Where's your ID? And we take it out of his pocket. And, you know, and it's kind of embarrassing, but law enforcement, plainclothes expects that. Civilians have to realize that's going to happen to you too.
It goes with the program.
They got a shots fired call, they got a guy down, they got, you know, car wreck, a hit and run, whatever it is. You're very likely going to end up on a pavement and and it ain't because of your race or your national origin. It's because you're at the scene of a violent crime and they got to freeze the scene. Again, for training, concealed weapon classes every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday here at the gun store. Check our website. Dallas. We had a horrendous event in Dallas. As we're doing this show, information is coming in on another terrorist attack. As those of you listening live will know, if you have not been aware of that, in Nice, France, there was a truck drove through a whole crowd of people that were watching a fireworks display. Last I saw from Fox News, just as we went on the air, they believe 70 people are dead and 100 injured. And it's the guy apparently ran the people down when his truck jammed and he couldn't crush anybody else. He leaned out and started shooting at people who were running away. It's clearly a terrorist attack. And what we will hear about it, if we haven't figured that out from Dallas, initially will be wrong. We still are trying to get information from Dallas as to what happened. From the immediate call we got, of course, I got here at the store, was what kind of gun. And initially the reports were he had a military style AR-15, an M16 that was only semi-automatic. That turned out to be wrong. Then we got updated reports was an SKS, Russian designed service rifle. It's a top-loading gun that fires the 30 caliber Russian round. And there were a lot of blogs on it. I watched lots of people on the air talking about how fast you can load that gun if you try, and And then a picture came out of the gun at the crime scene when the guy was blowed up. And it was neither one of those. So it's a Sega, which is a version of an AK-47 that fires the Russian version of a 223, the short 7.6 or 5.5 by 45 is the cartridge name. It's a 223 like, it's their version of an M16 round, but it's a little bit shorter case, a little less powerful. And so we had, when I look at that, and I know we've got three reports, and the last one I believe because I saw a picture of the rifle. And it is basically a tricked out, at the factory, tricked out AK-47. And it's, where I'm going with that is it should make everybody realize the early reports of these events are always wrong. It's bloggers hearing something or reading another blog and passing the information on as if it's fact. We do know a number of officers were killed, unfortunately, in Dallas. And we know that the individual was a black separatist, I guess is the term. He wanted to kill white people and white cops in particular in revenge for a couple of police shootings, according to his ramblings. Obviously, that's not a solution to anything. And reactions on both sides are becoming way out of line. The Dallas police chief is an impressive guy. He's keeping a handle on all of this. And, hopefully there will be some good come out of it, that this doesn't just escalate. We've had a couple of other police murders afterwards that look to be the same. One of the things that we're going to discover apparently the shooting where the officer, the first shooting where the officer, two officers had the guy on the ground, and he had a gun apparently, and you see the officer leaning over him, shoot him while he's laying down on the back. Those of us and people in law enforcement recognized it immediately what was going on here. It's not an excuse for the officer, but apparently the officer was grabbing his taser instead of his firearm. The guy was fighting with his partner, and when you look at the tape, a lot of the versions of the tape have cut off the motion now. Probably not realizing what they did, but they're cutting off some evidence that should go out to the public. The officer drew his gun and basically placed it contact against the guy's back, and then lifts it up and pulls the trigger. In taser training, we taught everybody that if the darts are right next to each other, they're less effective. The voltage running in an arc underneath the skin from one probe to the other probe, the further apart they are, the more effect it has on the combative suspect. So everybody is taught, if you're in close quarters, fire the taser as far away from the guy as you can. The idea is to get the darts to separate. Some time back, there was a guy killed in Oakland by the transit police, and you saw the same exact thing. Now in Oakland, the details were different. We discovered what happened there. Oakland was short of tasers, so the taser came with a holster, and the incoming shift would hand the holstered taser to the outgoing shift because they didn't have enough go around, and they would click it on their belt somewhere. It may be left-handed or cross-draw or right-handed or whatever. They didn't get the same holster every night, so now they have their own. When the guy in Oakland, they had the guy on the ground, he's being combative, and he reached for what, of course, the police tasers feel just like Glocks. Mm-hmm. The civilian ones you are used to look totally different, but the police ones feel like a Glock. So he pulled out his Glock, which turned out he thought it was his taser, and he did the same thing. He had it out, he went like this, and then he fired the gun. And that was a key to everybody looking at this in law enforcement, that he thought he had a taser. If you're shooting a Glock, they hurt your wrist. The last thing you want to do is fire it like that. That's what this officer apparently did. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just telling you what I saw in the tape, and it may not turn out to be that way. Experts will always disagree on this, and I already disagree with a couple of them on things. But until all the details of the investigation are in, we really don't know what happened. And I really don't believe the police are going to try and whitewash it. They're going to investigate and find out the truth. Dallas has a reputation for that.
I find, I do a lot of criminal defense work, and for the most part, the police are truthful. They write accurate reports, and they put down what information they have. You can tell when you read a report when you have a cop that's just reporting the facts and not opinion, and rendition of his probable cause, and that's that. It's a pretty rare thing, and it's a pretty difficult thing as a law enforcement officer, especially when you're doing an investigation, to falsify facts and then have that stick for any period of time. It's going to be highly scrutinized in this day and age, and it's just a very, very dangerous thing. A lot of that's just because of media, technology, a lot of that, and defense attorneys working cases, and internal affairs organizations becoming more pervasive in many police agencies, that you have, much more truthful officers. The vast majority of law enforcement officers, Bob, are honest people. They're out there to do a good thing, and they work hard, and they're trying to do their best.
Yeah, and
so
I absolutely agree. That's not to say there aren't bad apples in the police firm. There's bad apples in every profession.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. Some of them have been caught locally. As you've read in the paper, some local U.S. magistrates have completely dismissed cases because they've caught some people helping cases. But it's an extremely rare thing. And the idea by any citizen walking around who's not participating in that system or paying attention to any large extent to that system, that it's happening all the time everywhere, and cops are corrupt, is just absolutely false.
no, they're really not. I mean, Bill and I know lots of them, and it's a circle we travel in. The other thing this didn't give away, what you have to understand what really happens. There's CSI guys now. They know where every drop of blood should be, and where the spatter should be, and which direction, and they go through all this stuff. And you really can't lie at a crime scene that's a violent crime scene.
It's very difficult.
They know what's going to happen. And the other thing that enters into this is cops make terrible crooks. They're just not good at it. Criminals who do this for a living are better at being criminals than the cops are. The few that I've seen, the cops have done some just glaring error that, I don't want to go into the case. We had a shooting here some years ago that was a questionable shooting, and everybody yelled and screamed and and when they ran the gun, they found that the gun used in the crime had actually at one time been an impound of Metro. Somebody got it out of Metro impound. Who could do that? Maybe some street slug broke into the evidence vault at 3 a.m. No. It's the crooks, when they shoot somebody, they throw away the gun. They don't keep a gun that can be traced back to them. Usually they hand it off to another guy. We'll do more on this next week when I get more information on the Dallas thing, and we have with Lenny coming on next week to talk about terrorism, and we're going to do another show on terrorism and what's going on. California got slammed last week. I tend to do California law stories because we have so many listeners from California. Governor Jerry Brown signed a week ago Friday a number of firearms bills to do with California. All of them become effective January 1. The governor acted within 24 hours after the bills arrived on his desk, which prevented any more public content, which National Shooting Sports kind of got excited about because they didn't allow the public to weigh in on the governor's signature. The public was not allowed to weigh in on several of these bills when they were in the legislature. They held closed hearings and just passed them. So a lot of this ended up on the governor's desk with nobody being able to voice an opinion from legal objections. The ACLU got shut out of it. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to make it safe for Californians. Anyway, he signed these bills, AB 1135 and SB 880, expands California's current assault weapon ban. What it actually does is outlaws rifles, centerfire rifles that take any kind of detachable magazine and have a pistol grip or a flashlight or any one feature. There's other bills that do more than that we'll get into in a second. SB 1235 requires background checks for ammunition purchases. That's easy for me. In other words, when you go to a dealer after January 1 in California, you buy ammunition, you got to do a thing just like a federal 4473 and fill in all your information and what gun it's for. Bear in mind that California has 100% gun registration. have for years. So if you're buying ammunition for a 38, their computer will tell you the seller whether you own a 38.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't own a 38, you can't buy 38 ammunition because you're obviously buying it for somebody else. Or you have an unregistered 38, which makes you a criminal.
Yes, when you go out shooting with friends, you don't try out their gun or things like that. While you're out at the range, you're having a good time.
Well, not after this, because that's prohibited too.
Okay.
You may let somebody else shoot your gun while you're with him.
Mm-hmm.
You may not loan a gun to somebody. But that's a different bill. Anyway, there'll be background checks, and there's a database of ammunition purchasers so they know who's got what caliber. And there is now going to be, January 1, a $50 fee per year to be licensed to purchase ammunition. So you got to have that license. That doesn't void the background check or the check to see. It just lets you be an ammunition consumer. It's not in lieu of, it's added to. So you get a $50 ammunition permit. Now, this is a killer. SB 1446 bans possession of all magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds. Period. All magazines for anything. You don't have to have the gun. Any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds becomes unlawful January 1. Between now and then, you may dispose of it out of state, have a gunsmith saw it in half for you, or turn it into the police. But as of January 1, if any magazine you have that holds more than 10 shots, you are a misdemeanor.
Oh, okay.
If you got 2 of them, it's gross, and 3, it's a felony or something. But there's a sliding scale there, like how many pounds of drugs you got.
Oh, I see.
Okay, that's fair. And they added a 10-year prohibition on owning firearms for anyone convicted of falsely reporting a firearm lost or stolen. There was a lot of constitutional screaming about this one, but you have so many days to report your firearms missing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it says in the final bill. I haven't looked it up. They had 10 days, and then they added more time to it, mm-hmm. A month or 2 or something, because you don't look to see the gun you had hidden under your mattress is still there. Yeah. Every 30 days, because you got to report it within 30 days, or it's a crime not to report it stolen. Yeah. Or if you report a gun stolen, there wasn't.
I see.
You may wonder why anybody would do that, but they do that all the time. The gangbangers, when they throw their gun away, mm-hmm. and they don't, yeah. They tell the police somebody stole it. So they report it stolen because another gangbanger has it instead. Mm-hmm. That now, if you do that, you can't have guns in your possession for 10 years. Mm-hmm. That has some serious constitutional issues. Because you're not self-reporting a crime, you lose your gun rights. We couldn't possibly get into all the legal stuff on this. Yeah. But as we get details, we will. He vetoed a couple of them too that should have been vetoed. The one firearm every 30 days he vetoed. So you can buy more than one firearm in 30 days. That's okay. Mm-hmm. This weekend, Las Vegas Gun Show up here at the Sports Center on Sunset, just east of Las Vegas Boulevard. We will be there. The gun store's got a table there. I'll be there on Saturday, at least from 11 to 1. If you want to talk about something or ask a question, you don't want to put in an email.
Is this one as good as the one that used to be at Casher Field?
No, this is a small show. This is my favorite show.
Is it? Okay.
This is all really mom and pop. Really? Guys. A lot of guys are emptying out their garage and stuff. Really? There's a lot of neat stuff there. It's a great hunt.
And you got to check your weapons at the door and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, loaded firearms in, and they got Metro officers there too to usually have a table there to answer questions about guns and this and that. Awesome. They check incoming and outgoing firearms and so forth. Cool. Anyway, we'll be there Saturday at least. We got a table there selling brass and books and things and explaining class stuff, and we'll be there to talk to you if you want to. Then we'll be back next week with Attorney Clark Patrick and firearms instructor Lenny Davis. We will be talking terrorism next week, and we'll know more about this and more about what happened in Dallas and more about the subsequent shootings. This is getting to be a real bad time.
Yeah.
I just, if you don't own a gun, you need to own a gun. You've got to be able to defend yourself. I've never, in 40 years in this business, I've never seen anything like this.
It seems, at least perception-wise, the mass shootings have increased substantially.
Crime is down statistically.
Way down. Way down.
Yeah, 50%.
Those law enforcement professions that everybody's complaining about have put huge dents over the last decade in crime statistics,
Yeah.
especially violent crime statistics. They're going gangbusters. They're doing a good job.
Part of that's the media. I mean, well, I hear about everything now because right, if this wasn't now, this was 3 years ago, we wouldn't know anything happened in France until next week.
This is true.
So, this is partly it's all the information available to us, but nonetheless, I'll ask next week when I have my guys on. But Las Vegas is obviously a target. We just got
Prime target.
some. This is where Great Satan lives, so we need to expect something to happen here, and that doesn't mean live differently. It means if you have a CCW, carry your gun. You may not need it, but somebody else might. You might find yourself in the middle of something where you could save the day. You might have been the guy who was in the middle of San Bernardino with his gun and stopped that thing in its tracks.
Yes.
We've had a couple of those where CCW holders, I didn't do a lot of them. We're a few dozen of them this week where CCW holders stopped crimes in the middle.
He did a bunch of depressing news stories this week. It wasn't quite as fun. It was a downer.
This week was a downer. It's
you didn't get the stupid criminal ones, that are kind of somewhat humorous.
Well, yeah, I did the spoon one last week.
And I've noticed you've eliminated the warning shot scenarios. So
I didn't have one that came up this week that would have been a warning shot, would have been good. I'm the last instructor in the entire world who says sometimes a warning shot might be appropriate if you know where the bullet's going. We teach in our classes no warning shots. That's what all the agencies teach. That's what everybody in the world teaches, except me. If you know where the bullet's going, sometimes it gets their attention. But I would say every time I've learned to never say, okay, never.
I accept your sage advice at times.
I will come up with some scenario that is so weird the only way out is a warning shot. Okay. I'm sure you could. I can make up something that. But weird stuff happens. I tell people, you're being charged by an enraged 12-year-old with a little hatchet because he thinks you murdered his mother. It's wrong. And you're yelling at him, and here he comes. And maybe shooting one in the dirt in front of him will get his attention. Yeah. If you know where the bullet's going.
That's a scenario.
It happens 1 in a billion times, but I've looked at so many gunfights, I never want to say never.
I respect that.
Yeah. It's we're up on time. I want to thank everybody for listening to us. Next week will be an interesting show with the terrorism thing. We'll know a lot more about these cases and get some good advice from another attorney who's a gun guy. And Lenny, who is the world's expert on terrorism, will be here. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.